Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris, and I'm pleased to be your worship associate this morning. Welcome to our 5th annual Pride service at the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. Today's service may have a different flow to it, but we know it'll be awesome. We are thrilled to be welcoming special guest speaker Fae Johnstone and special guest singers, the Ottawa Gay Men's Chorus. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Whether you are taking part in this worship celebration from your home or wherever else you may be, wherever you may log on, whenever you may log on, you are welcome here. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory, and that the work of reconciliation is the responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all who have the capacity to understand, to be of service to those who are at risk, and to advocate for justice. If you're new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. You can also get more information at the tables at the back of the pews. We hope you join us for coffee hour after the service.
Hi, Nina. It's great to see that you've got a church name tag too. But help me out for a second. What do you mean by they, them?
Sure. They, them pronouns are the pronouns I use, and you can use pronouns when you're referring to someone if you're not using their name. We use pronouns for everyone. In some languages, like English and French, pronouns are typically different for different genders. You may have never had to think about this because you identify with the gender you were assigned at birth. People have always used pronouns for you that you feel comfortable with and that represent you accurately.
I don't understand what you mean by they. Isn't that bad grammar?
Well, even if it is, singular they pronouns have existed for hundreds of years. For example, someone left their coat here. I hope they are coming back for it. We don't say they is coming back for it, but we still interpret they as a singular. It's just as easy as that.
Okay, I get that, Nina, but I gotta ask, what's the point of this anyhow?
For instance, as a woman or a man, those labels don't feel right for me, and neither do any pronouns other than they, them. When people use the wrong pronouns for me, especially when they aren't using the ones I ask them to use, it can cause me discomfort or even distress.
Nina, thank you for explaining that. But speaking of gender, my whole life I've been taught that there were only two, male and female. Isn't being binary, non-binary a new thing?
Actually, the history of more than two genders and of transgender people can be traced back in many cultures around the world, like ancient Egypt, where 3 genders are on the record. Many indigenous cultures around the world have long recognized trans and non-binary people. The fact we don't know much history of trans and non-binary people highlights another impact of colonization.
Oh, my brain is being stretched. There's so much I don't understand quite yet. Nina, what if I mess up?
Well, it's respectful and encouraged to ask what someone's pronouns are before you refer to them, even if they look very masculine or feminine, as the way people express themselves on the outside doesn't indicate how they want to be referred to. If you make a mistake or are corrected, it's important not to make it about you. Simply apologize, continue the conversation, and try to take some time to practice using the correct pronouns for someone. One strategy I use is to use someone's pronouns in 5 different sentences.
5 different times. Just before the start of the service, someone told me their pronouns are any, all. What does that mean?
That means that person is okay with any pronouns being used, so feel free to mix it up. I should mention one other thing that you may see on the pronoun tags. We call them neo-pronouns, and they are new pronouns that are used when traditional pronouns don't seem to fit. I always need more practice with these ones, but what's most important is that I try. One example of these is A/M pronouns. These are used just like they, them, but without the.
That's a lot to take in so early on a Sunday morning. It's a lot to take in all at once.
Actually, There is a workshop coming up that will continue the conversation and help answer any more questions that you may have. And if you want, you'll be able to get your own pronoun stickers at the end. So, Reverend Eric, what pronoun should I use to refer to you?
I guess my pronouns would be he, him then. I'm glad I've got that figured out, and I think I'm going to need to be at that workshop. There's a lot more to understand.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
See you there. Thank you.
We now welcome up Guy with board announcements.
Well, good morning. As you've just heard, we do in fact have a gender and pronouns workshop, which will follow the service today at 12:30, and there will probably be a bit more information about it shortly. All are welcome to ask questions about people, pronouns, and respect. Next Sunday, August 27th, please plan on joining FirstU's Uni the Unicorn in the Capitol Pride Parade downtown. Wear your brightest colors, bring a water bottle, bring a hat, and meet at the Laurier Avenue Bridge near the City Hall by 1 p.m. or email diversity@firstunitarianottawa.ca for more details. It was a lot of fun last year, but do wear a hat. That sun gets a little intense after a bit. The Big Welcome Home Fish Fry will be on Thursday, September the 7th. Yes, Thursday, September the 7th, from 4 to 7 p.m. We still need a few more volunteers to make this event a success, so please see the EUU or contact Phil. I saw Phil, there's Phil, to volunteer. He'll take your names now, or you can reach out to him by email later on. And I have a final announcement. The Ottawa Gay Men's Chorus, who those of you who were here early enough got to hear practice, they sound wonderful. They are having open practices in September. I originally misnamed it an audition. It is not an audition. They take all comers. You do not have to be gay to join the Ottawa Gay Men's Chorus. You can, as long as you identify as male or non-binary and your singing register is in the tenor 1, tenor 2, baritone or bass ranges, you are welcome. The open practices will be on September the 6th, the 13th, and the 20th. And now on to our conclusion of the welcoming section. As we continue to adapt to the realities of COVID, we encourage you to sign up to receive the EUU, our weekly email newsletter, to check our Facebook and our Instagram pages and our webpage for notices and updates. Our calendar continues to be as full as ever with online and in-person options. We welcome you. You of any heritage or faith, from any culture or race, of any gender or orientation, in any body, from any social location. Today, you are part of our spiritual community. Welcome.
The Pride Flame by Linda Lee Franson. We light this flame to ignite our hearts and minds, the spark of knowledge that enlightens, the shimmering hope that burns, the flame, blazing love that engulfs our actions, the bonfire of our commitment. We light this flame for those who celebrate themselves, who fear, who hope, who persevere, who stand on the side of love for all. We light this flame for those who have been ridiculed, that they may find peace, for those who have fought to marry, that they may celebrate, for those who live in uncertainty in the world, that they may have hope. We light this flame to renew our commitment that no one shall ever again suffer for the right to love. We light this flame to celebrate the kaleidoscope of diversity, working, loving, and living on the side of love. For this, we light this flame. Our chalice is lit.
Thanks, everyone. And now we should have our story, which is My Shadow is Purple. My daughter Harmony read it with me, so we have it on video. Yeah, it's a really lovely story. But I wanted to mention the reason I chose this story is because in the US, there was a teacher that read this story for her classroom, and the children chose this story, and that teacher is now getting in trouble with the school administration. It might be Florida, wouldn't be surprised if it's Florida, just for reading this story to her grade school classroom. So that's why I chose it.
Written and illustrated by Scott Stewart. My shadow is purple. Written and illustrated by Scott Stewart. My dad has a shadow that's blue as red, and my mom's is as pink as a blossoming cherry. There's only those choices, a 2 or a 1. But mine's quite different. It's both, and it's sun. If theirs are straight, then mine is a circle. For my shadow's different. My shadow is purple. My shadow loves playing with all sorts of toys. Things loved by girls and things loved by boys. I dance with the pinks as they tenderly spin, and play sports with the blues as they lose and they win. Some of my friends think I'm simply confused, but the thing I love most is not how to choose. Some tell me I'm blue. Only blue can be strong. But my mom's strong too, so I think they're wrong. Some tell me I'm pink, because pink's the most caring. But dad's always crying and loving and sharing. Why can't I love sport and dancing and trains and ponies and glitter and engines and planes? Why must I choose and exclude all the rest? I love choosing both because both is the best. And now it is time for the greatest event. The school dance is here. The invites have been sent. I'm ready to rock down human feet. My mom made my skirt, and my dad made my suit. I bounced through the door and gasped as I entered. The room split in two, right down the center. Blue shadows go left and pink shadows go right. Once we're split up, we'll kickstart this thing. Everyone laughs as they get to their zones, and right in the middle, I left all alone. I look to the left where the shadows are blue. They wave me over saying, "You are blue too." Then I look to the right as I struggle to think. They call me over, "Come on, you are pink." The teacher walks up looking rather amused. "I know you are different, but now we must choose." My heart just starts racing and tears fill my eyes. I know I must choose, but don't understand why. The room is gone quiet and everyone's looking. My
This is the time in our service for joys and sorrows. The stones we place in this water ripple outwards, just as the care and love we extend ripple out into our spiritual community and beyond. If you'd like, I'd invite you to please come forward in 2 lines to silently place a stone in the bowl to represent your joys and sorrows. I'll be placing a stone of farewell for Wren, good wishes as she moves her home base to Philadelphia. Also, someone asked me to place a stone of joy. There's an excellent article in the Ottawa Citizen by our very own Lee Rose in the Summer Spotlight, August 9th. We have 1 caring card today. Even if you don't know someone directly, we encourage you to please sign the card anyway so that those receiving the cards can see all the names of those in their community who are thinking of them. After we have everyone come and place stones in the bowl, we'll have a moment of silence.
This is a reading to my LGBTQ ancestors by David Yedden. You who fought to love, you who prayed to the same God I do, you who insisted on your dignity even when the world said you had none, you who died of AIDS while fighting for a cure so that people like me might live, you who were shot in a massacre while on the dance floor. You who could not come out and held your secret until your dying day. You who were insulted, shamed, beaten, and brutalized, yet kept walking. You who contributed your fierceness, your originality, your art, and your voice to this world. I walk in your memory. I walk this path, smoothed and charted by your sacrifice toward justice, toward holiness, toward freedom.
Thanks so much, Barb. Today we have our special guest, the Ottawa Gay Men's Chorus, who will sing 3 pieces for us, and they are accompanied today by FirstU's former music director, Deirdre Kellerman. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Le bonheur, c'est perfect daughter, but I come back to the water, no matter how hard I try. Every turn I take, every trail I track, every path I make, every road leads back to the place I know, where I cannot go, where I long to be. See the line where the sky meets the sea, it calls me, and no one knows how far it goes. If the wind in my sail on the sea stays behind me, one day I'll know. If I go, there's just no telling how far I'll go. I know everybody on this island seems so happy on this island. Everything is by design. I know everybody on this island has a role on this island, so maybe I can roll with mine. I can lead with pride, I can make us strong, I'll be satisfied if I play along, but the voice inside sings a different song. What is wrong with me? See the light as it shines on the sea, it's blinding, but no one knows how deep it goes. And it seems like it's calling out to me, so come find me and let me know. See the light as it shines on the sea, it's blinding, but no one knows how deep it goes. And it seems like it's calling out to me, so come find me and let me know. See the light as it shines on the sea, it's blinding, but no one knows how deep it goes. And it seems like it's calling out to me, so come find me and let me know. What's beyond that line, when I cross that line, the line where the sky meets the sea, it calls me, and no one knows how far it goes. If the wind in my sails on the sea stays behind me, one day I'll know how far I'll go.
Amazing. Thank you so much, OGMC. We are so pleased today to have you with us, and we are so pleased to have Fae with us today. Fae is the Exec Director of Wisdom to Action, 2 with number 2, a 2S LGBTQIA+ owned and operated consulting firm, and President of the Society of Queer Momentum, a 2S LGBTQIA+ advocacy nonprofit. She is a leading voice on queer issues in Canada, a prominent advocate for queer and trans rights, a recurring voice in Canadian news and on 2S LGBTQ+ issues. Over the past 10 years, she has trained thousands of people and hundreds of workplaces on 2S LGBTQ+ inclusion. She is also on a chocolate bar. And this summer, Fae is also the Grand Marshal of the Ottawa Capital Pride Parade. Thank you so much, Fae.
The two microphones really confused me for a moment there. It's a really hard act, like literal act to follow, so let's give them another. Hello, my name, as you heard, is Fae Johnstone, and it is an honor and a pleasure to be here with all of you today. I want to start by recognizing indeed that we are gathered today on unceded, unsurrendered Algonquin, Anishinaabe territory, colonially known as Ottawa, and that in this work, as we celebrate Pride, as we recognize how far we've come for queer and trans communities, to encourage us to think about the intersections, to recognize that Prior to settlers coming to this land, there was no such thing as systemic homophobia and transphobia on these territories. That's not to say everything was perfect, but it is to recognize that it was a bunch of folks who looked a little bit like me, probably weren't wearing the nice dress, who came to this land and brought with them a state structure and a way of working that codified a lot of the issues and isms that we're still struggling to unpack and address today. And so I think in that spirit, I think Pride is both a time to celebrate queer and trans communities and just as much to recognize how far we still have to go to deliver on justice, health, well-being, and safety for all of us. I also want to say it's an absolute joy to be in a spiritual space like this. I grew up as a military brat in small towns. And we went to church sometimes, but I never really saw, a rainbow flag up in a church. And I think a lot of queer folks and a lot of young queer and trans people in particular don't have access to spaces like this and don't always imagine that spirituality can be a space for us as well. And so I think carving out places and spaces where our community is celebrated, the fact that you're doing a Pride service in and of itself, all of that is genuinely creating change, and I think bringing folks into these communities that have often felt like they were on the outside. Now, I have the honor of being the Grand Marshal of Pride this year, and I think it's a dubious honor because I think historically it's like a drag queen or somebody who's like, a pulp culture human, and I spend my days yelling at governments about rising hate. But I think they also chose me with that in mind, because this year doesn't feel like a normal Pride season to me. And I don't think it feels like a normal Pride season to many of you. Times are scary right now. I think I'm worried about where we're going to be in 5 years. And this is not all going to be sad and depressing, but I have to do that at the start to bring us to the joy and resilience and all of the good stuff after. But this year is a different kind of year. If we look south of the border, if we look at what's happening in the United Kingdom, if we look at what's happening in Ghana and Uganda and Poland and Italy, it feels like there's this global change of winds. And it feels like a lot of the work that we've done, the battles that we've fought, they're coming back at us, and we thought we'd won them a long while ago. I'm stunned that as a 28-year-old, I am seeing rhetoric in our world that equates queer and trans people with grooming and all sorts of other heinous things, and I can't help but wonder, where did this come from, and haven't we been here before? And so what does this rising hate look like? It looks like headlines debating our existence and our rights. It looks like protests at drag events. It looks like us having to create walls of bodies to let kids get into spaces to see people that are not far off from clowns with better makeup reading cute little gay books like you saw on the screen just a few minutes ago. I've personally been targeted by this hate on a few too many occasions at this point. I had my face on a chocolate bar a few months ago. It was huge for me. I went corporate for 3 seconds, and I'm never going back. But because of my inclusion on this chocolate bar, I had a cancel campaign that launched internationally with billions of media impressions and views and hundreds of articles. And it was so bad that I had bodyguards with me for 6 days straight who sat out of my home and stopped anyone who tried to come up to my door. My father-in-law is an ex-military man. We forgot to warn the security guards he was coming over. It was okay. See, I have a really grim topic, but I try to make it funny, so it works. What I like to remember as we see this rise in hate is a few things. I think first, that we've been here before. I think that in queer and trans communities, we often have like a generational divide that we're getting better at dealing with. I think our young folks often live in a different world than our slightly less young folks do. But I think now is an opportunity for us to recognize that we have been here before, and we have folks in our community who were there when we were here before. That we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And that we also can get through a lot more than we think we did, or think we can. You know, I am absolutely privileged to be a out, proud trans lady and to be in spaces that my elders would have been literally thrown out of. I have trans women in my life who are in their 60s and 70s, who never would have imagined that we would be where we are today, who never could have dreamed that the progress on queer and trans rights could come so quickly. And so we have so much to be proud of, and we have our elders and our ancestors to thank for that. And we can learn from them how to respond to this moment. Because the rise in hate is not dissimilar from hate that we've seen in decades past. And when governments didn't respond to an AIDS pandemic and a crisis, our communities came together, queer and trans folks in all of their diversity, and were there when some of our straight folks and our governments weren't with us. And so I think coming together as community and carving out spaces that we can hold as our own, that is how we meet this moment. There's the whole layer of this that is an existential worry around the state of the world, and a genuine fear around, where this is going to lead. But I think at the same time, we can fight that fight, but it is spaces like this one. It is spaces for our communities. It is the culture of care. That is what keeps us ready for that fight and what helps those who are most struggling. I also think that queer and trans communities have a lot to teach the world about showing up as our honest and authentic selves. I think that we help be a beacon to let others step into possibilities that they may never have imagined for themselves. And there is a power and a strength in that authenticity. There is also a joy that we bring into our places and spaces that I think we can't forget as we see this hate rise. The joy of showing up to your first gay-straight alliance meeting when you're 14 and 15 and just coming into your identity. The joy of meeting other queer and trans people and knowing that there are other people like you out there. The joy of your first kiss. The joy of your first breakup. And all of the other messy things. I worry sometimes that as those of us in the trenches fight this fight and worry and advocate and organize, I worry that we create a narrative that makes queerness sad, bad, and scary again. I worry that every time I get up on a stage and tell folks how bad the world is, that in and of itself actually contributes to the young queer and trans folks who we know struggle with mental health issues and already have a lot going on. And so I think coming back to that queer joy, recognizing the resilience and the strength of our community and celebrating all that we have to offer this world, I think that gives us the place, gives the young folks the space to keep growing and learning and thriving. Now, where do we go and how do we meet this moment? I think that's a question many of us are asking ourselves, and it's one that I wish I had a silver bullet answer to. But what I know is it's on all of us. There are some complexities of queer and trans identity that I do not imagine everyone is going to understand, and that's okay. We have these 70 genders. It really confuses some people. I usually tell social workers and mental health providers, you don't need to memorize every single gender identity. You don't need to know every definition. I don't know every single person in this room's gender, and I don't need to. I also don't know how you understand what it means to you to be a man, a woman, a non-binary person, or anything else. You don't need to understand every facet of somebody to see the humanity within them, to see the community and connection with them. We need to find ways to help bring this conversation and bring spaces like this to others, because I think they are healing spaces for everybody. If we can bring this spirit of conversation, connection, and humanity, I think that is how we fight this fight. But even if you have, questions or aren't an expert on every layer and letter and identity, I think we have to reground it in humanity and human rights. We have to reground it in common decency. There is stuff out there that is being said now. There are debates being had where I truly think that people have forgotten that queer and trans people are human beings too. And we've become this caricature that you don't want to be like. And if we can just help show that queer and trans people, yes, we like our blue hair, and some of us like a lot of piercings and tattoos, but we're also your sisters, we're also your cousins, we are your factory workers, we are your teachers, your nurses. We are so much more than a single story. And we are in community with you all of the time, helping make this little world work as best we can. I think we, as queer and trans people, can also give ourselves the break and rest that we need. A lot of us, I feel, think that if we don't do the thing, if we don't speak it, if we don't organize, if we aren't the bold one doing the thing, no one else will. And I see a lot of our young folks in particular, and I count myself slightly within that, who worry, or who are in this work and burn out faster than we would ever imagine possible. I like to joke that there's like a 5-year shelf life for trans girl organizers in Ottawa. And so we also need to create spaces where we're ready to support those who are advocating and organizing, and where we help young folks and the next generation do this work in a healthy way. Because I think a lot of both myself and anyone older than me have done it in unhealthy ways for a while. And we need to create space where we keep people in community and we value people beyond their ability to show up at something. I think we can also uplift different voices and perspectives. You know, one of the big things that worries me right now is the idea of a confrontation between queer and trans people and faith and spirituality. And we're seeing that in the US in a very big way. And it's not dissimilar, again, from what we saw decades ago. But I'm not the right person to go into a more conservative church and talk to them about gay people. We need folks who have the literacy and the lingo, who have and are connected to those communities. We need to uplift queer voices of faith and spirituality. We need to uplift Muslim, queer, and trans activists. We need to uplift folks who are of all, many, and no spiritualities, because there are some conversations that I'm not the right person to have, that maybe we aren't the right people to have. But if we have the right voices, and if our community is truly reflective of all, we can bring this message into those places and spaces. I also think we can remember what our elders dreamed of. I think we sometimes lose the plot amidst the impending apocalypse, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And we can remember that it wasn't just a world that was slightly better than this one that they dreamed of. It wasn't just a world where you could be slightly less likely to be harassed, or where you could be slightly less likely to encounter employment discrimination or be homeless. Our elders, our ancestors, those who started the fight for queer and trans liberation, both in the 70s and those who fought this fight in communities and cultures around the world for centuries, I don't think they would look at today and say, the fight is over. I don't think they would look at today and say, okay, queer and trans people have some human rights now, we're done. We still live in a world where 20 to 40% of homeless young kids identify as members of our community, where straight folks actually still make more money than we do, where our society has come a long way at being politer or being politer to more respectable queer and trans people, but where we still haven't confronted our hostility to gender diversity, to the gay men who don't look like straight men, to the trans folks who everyone is confused by their gender about. It's the best kind of trans person to be, we're fun. But we can remember, I think, that they had a bigger dream, and it is one in which nobody experiences shame, stigma, discrimination based off their gender and sexuality. It's a world in which gender norms and gender roles no longer exist. It's a world in which everyone has a home, everyone can make ends meet, everyone can be happy, can thrive in community, and no one has to walk down their street scared. I think that we as queer and trans people have been taught to accept everyday discrimination such that we don't read it as discrimination as much anymore. It's the moment where you pause before holding your partner's hand. It's the moment where you wonder, should I go out and walk down my street because it's 11 p.m. on a Friday night? It's those moments where you have to think and worry a little bit. I think all of us can still feel that sometimes. And so I want to bring us back to this dream of a world that is radically different from this one, because I think we can't win this fight if we don't know what we're fighting for. That is what motivates us. I still see young queer and trans kids whose lives are extremely difficult. And my dream for them, and I hope our dream for them, is a world where they don't have to worry about any of the things that we today are still worried about. And I think that is a dream that is worth fighting for. I think we have so much in our community to be grateful for. And we again are here because of the elders who made this fight possible. But I want to not do this for a living. I want queer and trans people to be just your workers, your buddy who's, I don't know, working at the convenience store, creating things. I'm really bad at coming up with on-the-spot examples. That is a future that I want to live in, and I think all of us want to live in. And so as I come to a close, hoping that my slightly disorganized ramble was exciting and engaging, I do want to thank you all for creating a space like this, for inviting me into this space. And as we come upon the Pride Parade, right around this time next week, I invite you to bring your family, to bring your friends, and to remember that Pride is indeed a party and a parade, but that at its root it is a protest. It is a fight for our communities, and so we need all of our communities to show up, to send a message to all of the homophobes and transphobes and folks with some big feelings about our community, that we have folks with us. I want to see the straight mom with so many rainbows on her. I want to see the dad. I think the dads don't always come out to the parade as much as the moms do. I want to see that whole community coming out to support us, because that will send a message to the 15-year-old gay kid who's at his first Pride Parade that this whole city is with him. And so I invite you to be there with us. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. And it's been a pleasure.
I'll invite our greeters to begin collecting the offering. This congregation has a long history of care, vitality, and bringing people together to move the arc of justice forward. We've been able to live into our hopes and dreams because of the generosity of those within and beyond this community. For those who might be watching this from home or who would like to find out about other ways to donate, you are invited to go to our website and click the Make a Donation tab for all of the info. Our gifts are freely given and gratefully received. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this community of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. Once the offering is complete, we'll invite everyone to sing a song together, led by singers in the congregation, OGMC, our very tiny summer choir. This song, Be the Change, is from our Justice Choir songbook, so some of you may already be familiar with it. We'll have the words to all 3 verses on the screen for you. Rise as you are willing and able.
Be the change
you, and thanks Deirdre for accompanying us for that. Before we close this time of worship and reflection, I'd like to invite you to join us for coffee hour right after the service in Fellowship Hall. If you are new to FirstU or still feel new, please feel free to grab a green mug so that we can greet you. Speaking of green, all are welcome to grab some leafy greens, courtesy of the Ajashki Garden folks from the Grow Towers in the old volunteer room through there. For now, we are taking a pause on the usual online fellowship hour. It will be back in September, so please keep an eye on the EUU newsletter to find out more about when that will be back. We will extinguish our chalice this morning to little snippets of a poem by Chen Chen, who is a gay Chinese-American poet. Encourage you to read more of his stuff. It's kind of cool. I don't have time to read the whole thing, but it's very interesting poetry. God sent an angel, one of his least qualified, though, fluent only in, let me get back to you. This angel sounded like me, early 20s, unpaid interning, proficient in fetching coffee, sending super vague emails. It got so bad, God, personally, had to speak to me. This was annoying because I'm not a religious person. I thought I'd made this clear to God by reading Harry Potter and not attending church except for gay weddings. God did not listen to me. God is not a good listener. Thing is, God couldn't take a hint. I tried to confuse God, but then God ended up relating to me. It rained and we stayed inside, played a few rounds of backgammon. We used our indoor voices. It got so quiet, I asked God about the afterlife, its existence, human continued existence. He said, "Oh, that." Then he sent his angel again, who said, I never heard from God or his rookie angel after that. I miss them, like creatures I made up or found in a book, then got to know a bit. This morning's chalice is extinguished, but our connections and faith remain. Let us sing together, Spirit of Life.
We hope to see all of you at the Gender and Pronoun workshop at 12:30, just in that room, Fellowship Hall. No registration required. We also hope to see you next week marching in the Ottawa Capitol Pride Parade. Now, just a note now, to give a content warning for family conflict within our Prelude music video. But you'll see the video, it exemplifies today's theme of finding queer joy and resilience. Please, if you will, raise your hands to those beyond our reach, even, as we return now to the challenge of helping the world come alive in prideful love. Let us go forward, my friends. Go in peace. Go in peace.